Hello friends, have you ever questioned why English is so widely spoken? Why is proficiency in English required if you want to advance in your career? You are expected to speak English in addition to your native language, not only in Nepal but in the majority of other countries as well. What makes English so unique that it became the most powerful language in the world? Why is it the world's language? And before English, what was the world's most powerful language? In today's educational video, let us see what we can find out. English, like most languages, has evolved over generations. The English language is a huge, lovely mess. Few languages have such a diverse and unexpected history. Let us start. When we look back in history, the answer starts with the British Empire, the largest empire in the world. For 200 years, Britain was the most powerful country in the world. From Canada to India, Australia to Nigeria, and the Caribbean to South Africa, the British Empire once ruled over one-third of the world's population. The year was 1922, and this empire was at its peak. It occupied a larger portion of the world's population than ever before. Look at this map. The British Empire controlled 25% of the world's land at that time. Starting from one corner, you can see New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, the UAE, and many African countries, followed by United Kingdom and Canada. All of these were controlled by the British Empire. There was a saying that the sun never sets over the British Empire, and it is clear why this was true. It would have been morning in Nepal by the time Australia's sunset occurred, and by the time Nepal had seen the sunset, Canada's morning had begun. This British Empire was home to a total of 450 million people. The British Empire colonized a large number of countries, and if the colonists wanted a good career, a good job, they needed to learn English. That is why English was regarded as the elite language in colonized countries. If you were educated and had a good job, you would understand English. But what happened when the British Empire's hold began to break? By the 1950s, most of the colonies had achieved independence, or they had begun a strong independent movement. The British had to leave the country and give these countries their independence. Many different countries have colonized the United States of America. Britain, France, Spain, and the Netherlands all had a share, but Britain received the majority of it. So, when the United States gained independence from British, they recognized the importance of having a national identity, and language played an important role. They decided on English as the language, which would unite the various states. You might be surprised to know this, but at that time, many languages were spoken in the USA. French, Spanish, Dutch, and German were all options, but English was chosen first. Priority was such that by the early 20th century, several states had banned foreign language instruction in schools. The restrictions on private language education were finally overturned by the United States Supreme Court in 1923. The story I have told you so far explains why English is spoken in British colonies. But what about the remaining countries in the world? Nobody forced the other countries to use English.
Friends, the answer to this has been hidden from the past 50 to 70 years. During World War II, the Allied nations defeated the Axis power. Allied nations such as the United Kingdom, America, and France defeated countries such as Germany, Japan, and Italy. The first point to make is that countries that win a war of this magnitude have global cultural dominance. English has dominated the world since it was first spoken in Britain and the United States. Following the end of World War II, the United States was one of the few countries that did not suffer massive losses. The developed European countries were completely devastated. Their economy had collapsed. However, America experienced a significant economic boom following the end of World War II. After the 1950s, America emerged as a superpower alongside the Soviet Union. With the help of capitalism, American businesses began to spread all over the world. The top business schools began to teach in English. English became the language of trade and commerce. American musical bands began to gain international popularity after releasing their works in English. Additionally, the same thing was seen with the filmmakers. Hollywood movies and American television shows became global sensations. America had the best technology in all of these categories. As a result, American culture spread all around the world. World War II is said to be a major reason for this, as many people believe that if Germany and the Axis power had won World War II, German would have been the more dominant language in the world today. Perhaps today's global trade and business would have been conducted in German, and most European countries would have been forced to use German language because the majority of European countries would have been forced to speak German. However, this is only theoretical. It is difficult to say what would have happened in reality. However, after America's and Britain's victories, English proved to be a powerful language. This is the final reason. How could English continue to rule even after the 1980s and 1990s? Every other language will be left behind. The reason is that the internet was invented in America. The internet-related companies that emerged did so in America. However, all of the top technology companies that rely heavily on the internet, including Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Apple, were founded in America. That is why English content now appears on 60% of all websites on the internet. And of course, computers, keyboards, and typewriters were all invented by Americans. So, unsurprisingly, they did it in their native tongue, English. That is why the computers originally only had English keyboards. As a result, all of these websites were built in English. Websites in other languages became more popular after smartphones were introduced. Keyboards in other languages began to develop using smartphone touchscreens. Before smartphones, keyboards in other languages were extremely rare. So friends, for all of these reasons, English has emerged as the most powerful, important and global language as of 2024. But is English the first global language? The story that I told you began after the British Empire was established. What happened before this? Was there another global language before English? The answer is yes. There were two Indo-European languages that were very popular at that time. And the languages were Greek and Latin. According to a linguistic professor at the University of Chicago, Latin was the world's first recorded global language. And it remained global language for longer than English, over 1300 years. It was the dominant language in the world. It was during the Roman Empire. Latin was one of the most commonly spoken languages in Western European cities. However, following the fall of Roman Empire, the Latin language broke into pieces. It began to evolve differently in different regions. As a result, many of today's languages emerged. You will be surprised to know that Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Italian are four important and widely spoken languages that evolved from Latin. In contrast, the dominant languages in Asia were Arabic, Chinese, and Persian or Farsi. Do you know that in the late 1800s, some people believed that the language we use today were imperfect in some way. As a result, they decided to create a language that allowed everyone in the world to communicate with one another. It would not be limited to just one country. This is not limited to a specific region. Instead, it could be a world language. That is how the Esperanto language was born, my friends. In 1887, a Polish man created this language. And as you might expect, this language was not successful. Esperanto is now spoken by approximately 100,000 to 2 million people worldwide. One thing is certain, this language is extremely simple to learn. The language creator claimed that learning its grammar would take only an hour. If you already know one of these languages, you can easily learn another. Because it is a language derived from the combination of these languages. It was also ensured that the grammar was as simple as possible while it was being created. Things are pronounced the way they are spelled. It is also very easy to create new words using prefixes and suffixes, so it does not have an extensive vocabulary. It has 28 alphabets, and when compared to English, it lacks alphabets such as Q, W, X, and Y because he felt these alphabets were unnecessary and they were rarely used. As a result, alternative alphabets are used to represent sounds that are not usually represented by special alphabets in English. I hope you found this video informative and please suggest more topics to us. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you very much.